Hello, everyone, and thanks for listening. Um, so, this is entitled A New World with People Who Do Not Care About Getting an STD. And so, I'll add to the other video that I had recently did. That is probably one of many of my biggest fears about getting involved with individuals is this right here, this new information about STDs that are skyrocketing in LA County and in all over. It's like people don't care anymore. And I remember like when I reached, before I even got to middle school, I believe it was in the 6th grade, they had all of the girls and all of the boys to get a note from the school office, and your parents signed it, and they showed you a movie, and they had a nurse or a doctor, a physician, to talk to 6th graders and 7th graders about STDs and tell you the, you know, they gave you the talk. So it made it easier for parents to not have to feel, compelled that they had to talk to their kids about sex, because some people don't feel comfortable talking about sex to their young ones. Some do, some don't, but a lot of them don't. So this article came out, STDs in LA County are skyrocketing. Officials think that racism and stigma may be to blame. And so this article is by Asuma and Malanga. Langla. So she has a long last name. It sounds really pretty, but I'm probably not saying it correctly. But anyway, um, I just think this is really a sad time that we're living in, that, some of it is not just parents and stuff like that, but it's the funding. And so that's a big problem in LA County. LA County Department of Public Health, they speak at the news conference about reducing unintended pregnancy rates among youth in Los Angeles. And so you hear that there was one place that had something called the heartbeat bill. And I don't know if it's coming here at all to LA County, but if it does, there's going to be a lot of folks in trouble. So I'm going to go into this article, and it's pretty shocking and alarming, but not in a way for me. This is why I stay. This probably is one good reason why I stay to myself, and don't really want to engage in any, bad decisions, because even as an older mature adult, people don't go to the doctor. Some people won't go to the doctor. They don't realize that health is not just about checking if you have a cold or flu, or if you need surgery or heart surgery and your leg is broken. Has to do with your health as well. It has a lot to do with your health. And people don't realize that if you there's some things that you can get that don't have a cure, and you might have to live with it for the rest of your life. And things that maybe they have a cure for it, but it may have left scar tissuing, or maybe leave a person where they can no longer reproduce children. So the teenagers tucked their hands into their sweatshirt and pockets as they shuffled from a circle. They shuffled to form a circle. And so what happened here is they tried to gather teenagers together to put them in a circle so they could talk to them about, play a game involving this program. So some gazed at the asphalt trying to avoid the game they had been drafted to play. So it's like playing hot potato on musical chairs, but it's with a penis, said a girl leading the group. So the kids gathered on a spring morning in South LA, where about that they were about to get a hands-on lesson in sex education. So many health experts say that the public health problems are best tackled outside of the doctor's office, and that fixing the culture that perpetuates them is more effective than changing a single patient's behavior. So for sexual health, which there is a such thing as sexual health, that means combating the stigma around sex. So teenagers, and the girl explained that they would pass a plastic life-size penis around the circle. So whoever was holding it, the music would stop, and then they would have to unroll a condom onto it, completing each of the 8 steps so that they would learn what the steps are in preventing STD, safe sex practices, of course. So I'm adding something onto this. So they had been taught a few minutes earlier. So the music started as the teens look up, and the recent all-day event was called the Spring into Love event. And it was intended to get high schoolers more comfortable about talking about sex in their body. The hope is that an open dialogue will make them more likely to reach out and seek out condoms and STD centers, and eventually reduce the spread of diseases. So this is a sign here with one of the people. It looks like it might have been possibly a student, or it could be an instructor, because you can't see the face of the person. So number 1 is consent. Number 2 is expired. When a condom is expired, it can be more likely to break. 3, air. 4, open. 5, pinch. 6, roll. 7, kids steps on how to use a condom, how to use protection wisely. So the focus on the stigma is just one of many ways Los Angeles County health officials are trying to think outside of the box as they struggle to curb the rising STD rates. So it's clear that the traditional ways of preventing disease, patients seeing a doctor regularly to get screened and treated, have not been working. So Dr. Jeff Gusenhauer, LA County's interim health officer, was saying this. So if that really helped, this problem could be taken care of. So he said, so the county recently created a Center of Health Equity to evaluate the way certain public health issues are intertwined with social factors such as income, a person's level of education, as well as racial discrimination involved. So high STD rates are at the top of the center's list of priorities. So in just the past 5 years, the number of gonorrhea cases in Los Angeles County have doubled, with minorities suffering more than most. So the numbers are only going up higher, Gusenhauer was saying. So it's not getting any better. So what's going on is unacceptable. So all I heard was, don't get pregnant. Now, to explain this, the church auditorium was decked out in streamers and balloons. The kids chatted around the tables with piles of Mardi Gras beads and condoms at the center. So the Spring into Love, which began 5 years ago, is a brainchild of a coalition of LA County health advocates trying to bring down the STD rates. This year's event, held in late March, included workshops on healthy relationships and body image, as well as free STD testing. Ashley DeRoss, 18 years old, showed a group of students how to safely open a condom and a wrapper of a condom. So she said that her family almost never talked to her about sex. So there's probably all these videos, sexy videos, talk about sexual things to their peers, but they've never been actually schooled by their parents or by a professional or a trained professional that can tell them all of the pros and cons of sexual health. So other teens at the Spring into Love sought practical information. So it says sexual health is something in my household that was a taboo thing. Doris, a high school student or senior, said in an interview, all she heard was don't get pregnant. Now, I heard this as a teen, don't get pregnant. And my mother didn't really explain a lot, but she did sign that form so that I could have the talk and that I could see the video and that they could explain to me what some people call the birds and the bees. So that's better than nothing. at all. Some kids nowadays don't know anything. They go out and experiment on their own, or they hear locker room talk, or they hear, by word of mouth, or they have these little parties, or they stay out late and they experiment on their own. And this is probably what contributes to this right here. This right here, it says other teens at this Spring into Love sought practical information they hadn't learned in health class. So one boy said that he hadn't known he could get an STD in the anal sex. Some people don't even know that. Some people think they can't get HIV through the anus, and you can. As a matter of fact, that's a faster route. So many of their parents would be mad at them for asking questions about sex at all, because everybody's so religious, and they're too religious to protect their children, so they won't talk to them about sex because it's a sin. But kids are going to be more apt to want to experiment on the street, or they're hearing about it, or they're going to find out, but it's going to end up looking like this. So gonorrhea cases have doubled in LA County. And so this is the numbers. When you're looking to, if you're sitting down at the bottom, is the years 2012, 2013, all the way to 2017. So that was last year. Look at how it's a stair step, and it's rising. That means the numbers are rising. So it goes from 5,000 all the way up to 25,000 cases each year. It's doubling. It's tripling. So this is such a natural human interaction, and yet it is stigmatized, said Valerie Coachman Moore, who oversees We Can Stop STD LA, the coalition of advocates that put on the event. So people are having sex. Yes, they are. Probably a lot. But in terms of health, that ain't good. So many say the silence around sex plays a big role in young people's high rates of STDs. So many feel uncomfortable walking into an STD clinic or talking to their parents or partners about, even your own partner, the person you're with, about safe sex practices. Some refuse to use it. Because I've heard people said that, oh, we know each other, we trust each other, we're just going to have, we're together, we're monogamous, it's just me and you, but you don't know who that person you're with who they've been with before, prior to you. So that's the problem, and people don't realize this. So in LA County, half of the chlamydia cases is a third of gonorrhea cases have been diagnosed each year are among people between the ages of 15 years old to 24 years old. And so it gets worse. And so the one thing that I never do, and I hope others don't as well, is blame these young people for not taking care of themselves, said Barbara Ferrer, head of LA County Department of Public Health. So researchers increasingly view public health problems as shaped by the environments in which people live. So neighborhoods where people of color reside, for example, are more likely to be pollution-ridden or have fewer parks and doctors, and factors that directly affect people's health. This is not just their problem, it's a community problem, said Jim Ryan, so of the We Can Stop STD LA. So here's another graph of chlamydia cases, 100,000 people. Here's California, and it's rising, and then LA County altogether is the highest, and it was the highest last year. So we don't even want to know what it is this year. So it is really high. So it's, and numbers of those, it goes from 100,000 people. That's crazy. So it's systematic racism to blame. Is it, or is it? Is it not, or is it? Los Angeles County has launched a Center for Health Equity in October to address the idea that health predominantly happens outside the healthcare setting, said the director of health, Heather June Northover. Had a recent meeting. So it happens where we live, work, play, and pray. So the center will target 5 health disparities, including high rates of STDs among certain minority groups. Nationwide, STD rates have been climbing for the past 5 years. So more people were diagnosed with syphilis, chlamydia, or gonorrhea in 2016 than ever before. So some blame underfunding of STD prevention programs as well as a failing condom usage of people. There's also than ever before because of the hookup apps, a lot of the online apps and people hooking up and, let me have a little shindig or one night stand. And then they end up with in a syphilis, chlamydia, gonorrhea, and also worse, herpes, HIV, and worse, whatever else is out there. And so some blame the underfunding for it. And then others will blame just people not having good health practices, sexual health practices. So, but the picture is more complicated when it comes to the high STD rates among the minorities. Now, listen, it also includes the LGBT community, so gay and bisexual men make up the vast majority of new syphilis cases. So in LA County, syphilis rates among African American women also are 6 times higher than white women and 3 times higher than Latino women. So Northover said that the officials need to evaluate what's called structural and systematic racism, the way housing or education policies may negatively impact people and their health is the same way. So studies have found, for example, that people with HIV who had a low level of literacy or education were less likely to follow their treatments, and that poor Americans who, income wise, were more likely to engage in risky behavior, increasing their risk of STD. So I guess I don't know how that kicks in, but maybe this will explain also. Yeah, it could be people that do desperate things for money. So that might bring the risk higher. So they might be using their body, to make extra money. Some people will prostitute their working jobs, like, as escorts, and then they're doing other side stuff that could be, not really legal, but it could be sex work. And they might not be safe while they're doing it. So the Center for Disease Control and Prevention released a white paper in 2010 saying the country could not close disparities in STD rates without addressing the interpersonal network, community, and societal influence of disease transmission and health. But that's a tall order given how entrenched many social programs are. So poverty or lack of opportunity may be forcing women, like I said, to exchange sex for resources, leading to the spreads of STDs, Northover has said. So there also tends to be a mistrust of the medical system among African Americans, which this is true, making them reluctant to seek care. So some people don't trust doctors, medicine, because sometimes they don't prescribe, or they overprescribe, or they may, misdiagnose. And so there's not very much trust in the medical field as it is today. So it makes them reluctant to seek care. So they be excluded from access to healthcare also because of geography, where you live, and your finances, whether you can afford, healthcare or not. So we need to take a wider lens, said Northover, who added that she's still trying to get to the bottom of what's driving STD rates. So County Supervisor Mark Ridley Thomas, who represents South Los Angeles, convened several community groups in 2012 to try to bring down the STD rates through collaboration. But the still growing cases and the numbers suggest that the approach needs to be re-imaged, said Dr. Michael Hoochman, a senior health deputy for the supervisor. So if you keep doing the same thing and expect a different result, then that's insanity, Hoochman said. So that's pretty much the entire article. So I'm going to go pan back up. It's in the Los Angeles Times. And so I don't know if I made mention of that, But, I had some other videos and I actually put percentages and proof of things. And I was still told by somebody that wasn't really paying attention that, oh, you didn't put any statistics, you didn't put any data. There's no, what's the data? And they didn't even look. They didn't even look at it. And here it is right here for this right here. But somebody will say, oh, what's the data? What's the data? Because that explains why some people are got gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, and HIV, because they don't read about nothing. They don't care anymore. There are people that don't even care. They'll have sex raw. They don't care about condoms. They don't care about, uh, ending up pregnant. And now we've got all these new laws coming out. You don't know if it's going to come this way, where they're going to, put limits or some kind of regulation on who gets an abortion and who doesn't. And so people play games. They play a lot of games. And, this is not a game. Real life is not a game. I never thought it was. But unfortunately, we live in a time where people just do anything. They get on these hookup lines. You don't know who you're meeting. You don't know who they've been with. They won't tell you who they've been with. They lie. And you could be sleeping with somebody who knows that they're infected with AIDS. They could have full-blown AIDS. They might be angry and decide to give it to you. And they're lying just because, now they've got people who don't even look like they're infected. And so that's why I don't even go there. I don't even, that's my way of saying, I don't even fool around and none of that stuff, because I know people say, oh, that's boring and you're going to be by yourself. Like, I don't give a fuck. I'm serious. I'd rather be by myself and safe and die of natural causes, heart, something like that. Never this right here, because it's miserable. There's no way. And I'm just being bluntly truthful. And some, I hear all these crazy videos, guys bashing and all this kind of stuff, making themselves, and they're just trying to put pressure on women so they'll open their legs. But you don't know what you're opening yourself up to. You don't know if some people don't go to the doctor. You'd be surprised. They look clean on the outside, but on the inside, it's a dirty bomb. And so there's no way. When we were younger, they at least had, our parents will sign a form and they could say whether they wanted you to hear the talk or they didn't want you to hear the talk. But based on whatever their belief, oh, we'll talk to our own kids. Or we'll go take them to the hospital or physician or clinic and have them talk to them. We comfortable about that. Or yes, we'll sign up. Most of the parents signed the form and allowed their kids to go in to see the video and have the talk. And it was, everybody was excited because we knew we were getting older and we knew we were graduating. We were getting ready to go into middle school, which was called junior high back then. And we know when we were getting ready to have the talk, we're almost done with school. Summer's coming. We're getting older. Wow, we're growing up. We're learning about our life and our bodies. Now these kids, they don't know nothing about their body. All they know is, oh, I look good in these Jordans. And these ball shoes, whatever they are, the Ball Brothers or whatever. I look good in these pants and I'm a huckabuck tonight. I'm going to listen to whatever, my music and sleep with somebody. And they don't know they can end up pregnant and they can end up with any number of these diseases. They don't know how to protect themselves no more, And if they did know how to, they don't even know how to use a condom. Some people, you'd be surprised. They don't even know what that is. Or they know what it is. They just think, oh, that's for squares. That's for the nerd people. And so that's why we have this problem here. And I'm sure it isn't just here in LA County in California. It's in other places too, because this is a different world we're living in, where people don't talk about the real facts of what's going on and what time it is. Anytime we got people writing, crazy lyrics and music called poop to scoop, it's time to start talking to our kids about how to take care of themselves, because it just doesn't make sense. I'm sorry, I might sound like an old grandmother, but I'm just being real. So anyway, this is pretty much the article. It's just sad that this has come down to this, and people may not like me for being honest and telling the truth, but even there's grown people that won't go to the doctor, and they think, well, let's make love, honey, and then next thing you know, They might give you something, it's so many diseases, so much stuff happening that they had under control back in the times. Now this stuff is just breaking out everywhere. Who ever thought you would die of the flu? We are getting things that people used to you just take a little cough syrup or something. You find the next couple of days. Now it'll take you a couple of weeks before you can get on your feet, because this stuff has gotten stronger and stronger and resistant to the medicines and things like that, because people are not taking care of themselves, or they're not seeking out how to go and protect themselves. They don't do this no more. And the way these people get on YouTube talking about, I'm going to do the hucklebuck and I'm going to shake my butt and all this kind of stuff, you need to protect yourself, because you don't know who all they've been doing the hucklebuck with. Trust me, you ain't the only one they doing it with. And I don't care what people say. They can get mad at me, talk about this marriage and hooking up and all this kind of stuff. And I'm going to find me a black love and all this kind of stuff. Well, guess what? Y'all up in this category, in these lists right here that you see with the rising, skyrocketing of the STDs, you up in here somewhere with your, I'm going to go and find me somebody. And let me get on Instagram and let me go on Facebook and get hooked up. Well, you get hooked up with one of these diseases: gonorrhea, syphilis, chlamydia, and probably worse, HIV and herpes. Now I say stuff that you don't hear about, you hearing more and more about it now. So it's no way. And the laws they got out now is a mamma jamma. We gonna come into a time where you can't get no abortion. So if you with some dude or some female or whatever, and that's not who you want to be with for the rest of your life, and you get them pregnant, you stuck like a duck in the mud. Stuck. And that's what's going to happen. And you're going to have to either be serious about that individual, and that's who you want to be with. If you're not, then you better start listening up, and you better start protecting yourself, not only from diseases, but from a lifelong of misery. And see, these young people don't get to talk. They just pretend. And they go out there and they get on these hookup sites. You don't know, you could be a murderer, a rapist, somebody crazy, some prostitute you sleeping with. She look good, but you don't know what's between them legs. And I'm just being real. So some people don't want to hear it. They go, I already got to talk. I know what I'm doing. I don't need a doctor, until they keel over, and then they wish they hadn't did it. So I'm just saying, I'm just being real. But anyway, we got to talk when we were younger. I don't know what these people are doing now. I guess they too religious to talk to their kids, certain ones who, they use that. Instead of using it as a weapon, why don't you use it as common sense? Say, you know what? I want to live righteous. Oh, if you want to live righteous, then why don't you teach your kids so you can protect them how to protect themselves? And there's a lot of free clinics. Some people won't bother to go to those. They think that's just for regular people that just don't have no kind of health insurance. But it also, I'm sure some of the free clinics will offer, condoms and things like that. But that's all I'm going to say about this. I just think it's scary. But also, now this is not here in California, but I was going to look it up. It scared the mess out of me, along with all the other stuff. Somebody had brought this to my attention and told me that in Atlanta, because the poverty of some people was so great, that they were so desperate that they were willing to contract HIV, because they get a lot of services if they actually are infected with HIV. Now, let me reiterate this again. This was in Atlanta, and it's already, what I'm hearing, it's got a lot of drama out there. Because I was not too long out in the South, and I heard a lot of stuff was going on. But this right here, it almost, if I was wearing a wig, it would have blew it off my head. But when I heard it, it was saying that people were willing to get HIV, because then if they were homeless and they didn't have no place to go, they would get, great medical care, and they would give them a place to stay and all this stuff. I said, am I hearing what I'm hearing? You're willing to get something that could possibly kill you Just so you can, I said, it is getting bad. It's really getting bad. Anytime that people are willing to get HIV, and I would say, wait a minute, do they have that list where you can know who's got it? I'm serious. Because I said, if they give them the medicine, because some people walk around, they got that, and they don't look sick. Because I remember I lived through the era when people dropped like flies when they caught that stuff. It went from HIV, and you didn't see that long. It went straight on to AIDS, and you were dead in a matter of weeks, months. I mean, that quick for some people. And I worked around people who also I worked at a hospice where people had 6 months and less to live, and then getting that stuff ain't pretty. I'm just telling you. I know from experience from seeing people suffering with it. And it wasn't like the people always out there ranting that stuff. It's just the gays. It's just the gays. No, it was some people that weren't gay that had it. They were on drugs or they were promiscuous. Promiscuous? Meaning people who like to have lots of partners, sex partners. And they have lots of people they're sleeping with. And they think because they look good, they smell good, that they must be good. But you don't know what they got, who they've been with, how many people they've been with. It multiplies over time. And so young people don't get those talks. So I don't know. I'm hoping that maybe they listen to this. But maybe a few of them read the article, but I don't think people read no more. As we've heard from some artists, reading ain't the thing anymore for some people. But this should get your attention. If it doesn't, it might get your attention in another way where you actually experience one of these diseases. So some of these things you can get, ain't no cure for it. I'm just telling you right now. There's some things you can get that you going once you get it, you stuck with it. You stuck with it. Trust me. Start researching. It ain't just herpes and AIDS either, and HIV. There's some other stuff out there that once you get it, it can return. So anyway, with that being said, oh Lord have mercy. I didn't know this was going on, but I kind of had a feeling. Like, comment, subscribe. Thanks for listening.